Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive, this time into Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I think most people listening have probably at least heard of it. It's been around forever, and it's super popular.
Yeah, it's a classic for sure. I mean, it just seems like the advice in it never really gets old, you know?
Exactly. So we're not just going to, list the 7 habits. We all know that. But we're going to look at it from a different angle today.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to try to go a little deeper and look at, the principles behind the habits.
Okay.
And how they kind of all connect together to make this framework for personal growth.
So less of a checklist and more of a philosophy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that starts with his inside-out approach, the idea that real lasting change comes from the inside out.
Okay.
It comes from building your character instead of trying to rely on some kind of external
Just more about
tricks or techniques.
who you are rather than what you do.
Exactly. He contrasts character ethic, which is, about integrity, humility, courage, things like that, with personality ethic, which is more focused on kind of superficial techniques,
Yeah.
So Covey would argue that true effectiveness comes from that inner foundation
great.
of character.
So how do the first 3 habits, then the so-called private victory, play into this idea of building character?
Well, I think you can think of them as laying the groundwork for everything else.
Okay.
So let's look at habit 1, be proactive. Think about a time when you felt kind of stuck, like you were a victim of circumstance. Covey would say that you were too focused on your circle of concern, the things that you can worry about but can't really control.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example,
I spend a lot of time there.
yeah,
Monday mornings when I hit snooze too many times and
Yeah.
traffic is just a nightmare.
absolutely. Things like the weather or politics or
It's the economy.
yeah, the
Right,
economy.
it's-
But habit 1 is about shifting your focus to what he calls the circle of influence, the things that you can control, your attitude, your choices,
Okay.
your actions. Even in that traffic jam, you could choose to listen to a podcast, or you could practice mindfulness, or you could plan your day. It's about reclaiming your power in any situation.
So it's not about ignoring the problem.
Yeah.
It's about choosing how you're going to respond
Right,
to it.
exactly. And I think that leads perfectly into habit 2, begin with the end in mind.
Mhm.
Imagine your ideal life, 10 years from now.
Okay.
What do you see Covey would say to let that vision guide your actions today?
It's like a roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. It's about setting a direction for yourself, a clear vision for your future. Think about someone who's achieved something amazing, like an athlete who wins a gold medal. They didn't just wake up one day and win,
Right.
They had a vision and they trained relentlessly and they made daily choices that aligned with that goal.
That makes sense. But how do we make sure with everything going on in our lives that we're actually making time for those right
Well,
choices?
Well, that's where habit 3 comes in. Put first things first.
Okay.
This habit is all about prioritizing, effectively making sure that your actions are aligned with your goals and your values. Have you ever heard of Covey's time management matrix?
Vaguely. I think I remember it.
Yeah. It basically categorizes tasks into 4 quadrants.
Okay.
Urgent and important.
Yeah.
Urgent but not important. Not urgent but important, and not urgent and not important.
Got it.
So think about it. Your stress deadlines are looming. Your inbox is overflowing. It's tempting to just tackle those urgent tasks, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I have a feeling that that's not what Covey is recommending.
He would say that you're getting caught in the whirlwind of urgency.
Okay.
The real key is quadrant 2. Not urgent, but important.
Okay.
These are the activities that are crucial for long-term success, but they often get pushed aside, things like planning, relationship building, skill development.
So investing in those areas might not feel urgent, but actually saves you a lot of stress and scrambling later on.
Exactly. Imagine spending just an hour, Sunday evening planning your week. It might not seem like much, but that one proactive step could prevent you from feeling overwhelmed and behind all week.
That's a good point.
It's about making time for what truly matters, even when it doesn't scream for your attention.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Welcome back to our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people. So last time we were talking about, the private victory, building that inner foundation of character. But now we're moving into the realm of public victory habits 4, 5, and 6, which focus on how we interact with others.
So kind of going from me to we.
Yeah, exactly.
Which honestly can sometimes be the hardest part.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where these habits become so valuable. They give us a framework for building strong, effective relationships.
Okay.
Remember habit 4, think win-win.
Mm-hmm.
It challenges us to shift from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. believing that there are solutions out there that benefit everyone involved.
I get that in theory, but what about in those situations where you're dealing with someone who just seems like they're out for themselves? You know, they
Yeah,
just want to win at all costs.
that's a great question. And it brings up a really common misconception about thinking win-win. It's not about being passive or letting people walk all over you.
Right.
It's about approaching every interaction with this collaborative spirit, even when the other person maybe isn't initially reciprocating.
So even if they're coming at you with a more competitive
Yeah,
mindset.
exactly. You're still trying to find that solution that works for both of you.
Okay.
It's about setting clear boundaries, advocating for your own needs, and being willing to walk away if a truly win-win solution just isn't possible. But even then, you're modeling the behavior that you'd like to see.
Right. Well,
You're demonstrating respect and integrity.
so it's not about giving in. It's about just approaching the situation with the right mindset.
Exactly.
Okay. So then how does habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood, play into this?
Habit 5 is so crucial for actually achieving those win-win outcomes.
Okay.
It's about truly listening to the other person, not just waiting for your turn to speak or planning your rebuttal in your head.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, we all do it. It's human nature. But Covey emphasizes the importance of what he calls empathic listening, really trying to step into the other person's shoes.
Okay.
So, for example, imagine a friend is venting to you about a work issue. Instead of immediately jumping in with solutions, you could say, "It sounds like you're feeling really frustrated and undervalued. Tell me more about what happened."
Right. It just makes them feel heard.
Exactly. And here's a practical tip before you offer your own opinion. Try to summarize what you've heard.
Okay.
This shows them that you've been paying attention, and it ensures that you've actually understood them correctly.
That's good advice. So how does habit 6 Synergize kind of build on these principles of win-win and empathic listening?
Think of synergy as that magical outcome when those previous habits are in play. It's recognizing that when people with different perspectives come together in a spirit of mutual respect and collaboration, they can create something truly extraordinary.
So it's like more than just teamwork.
Yeah.
It's really taking advantage
Yeah.
of those differences.
Exactly. Imagine like a musical group. Each musician has their own unique talent and their own style. But when they come together, they listen to each other, they respect each other's strengths, they can create music that's so much more powerful than anything they could have produced on their own.
Yeah. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It really shows how those different perspectives can create something much richer and more dynamic. But realistically, even with the best intentions, conflicts still arise.
Oh, of course.
How do we navigate those
Yeah.
choppy waters?
You're right. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship. But the 7 habits give us tools to handle it constructively. Remember those principles of character that we talked about?
Right.
Integrity, honesty,
Right.
fairness, respect. Those are our guiding stars even when emotions run high.
So it's about staying grounded in those values,
Yeah,
even when it's tempting to just react impulsively.
absolutely. And that's where habit 5, seek first to understand, becomes essential. When conflict arises, pause, take a deep breath, and truly listen to the other person's perspective. Try to understand their feelings and their needs, even if you don't agree with them.
That's hard, though, when you're in the moment and you're feeling angry or hurt.
It is hard, but the more we practice these habits, the more naturally they become our default response, even in those difficult situations. And remember, conflict, when handled well, can actually strengthen relationship.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see conflict now as not something to just avoid at all costs, but like an opportunity
Yeah,
to learn and grow.
exactly. And that brings us to habit 7, sharpen the saw. It's about recognizing that to be effective in all areas of life, we need to prioritize our own well-being. Think of it like this.
Okay, so we're back talking about the 7 habits, and I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. We've got the philosophy, we've explored the habits for personal and public victory, but now, how do we put it all into practice?
Right. It's great to understand the concepts, but
Yeah.
how do we actually use this stuff in our lives?
Exactly. Where do we even start?
Well, I think Covey would say it comes back to that foundation of character that we've been discussing.
Right.
Those principles, integrity,
Yeah.
honesty, fairness, respect, they're not just abstract ideas.
Right.
They're the bedrock of everything else.
Okay, so it's like no matter what challenges we face, we can always come back to those
Yeah.
core values.
Absolutely. They guide our decisions, our interactions, how we approach everything. And that's especially important, I think, when it comes to leadership.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. How do the 7 habits apply to being like an effective leader?
Well, I don't think it's about having a fancy title or,
Yeah.
bossing people around. Covey really believed that true leadership starts with those first three habits, that private victory.
Hmm.
You have to master yourself before you can effectively lead others.
You can't inspire others if you're not inspired yourself.
Exactly. And then I think those public victory habits become so crucial for building trust and fostering collaboration.
Okay.
Think about habit 4. Think win-win.
Mm-hmm.
A leader who embodies that principle creates an environment where everyone feels valued and empowered.
So it's not about creating a super competitive
Right.
environment.
It's not a zero-sum game.
It's about winning together.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's habit 5. Seek first to understand.
Mm-hmm.
This is so essential for any leader who wants to build strong relationships and resolve conflicts effectively.
Well, speaking of conflict, I mean, let's be real. Conflict is just a part of life.
Of course.
Even with the best intentions.
Yeah.
Disagreements happen.
Yeah.
How can we use the 7 habits to navigate those situations?
First, I think it's important to remember that conflict isn't inherently a bad thing.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for growth and for deeper understanding. But I think those principles of character are really crucial here. They keep us grounded when emotions are running high.
So even when you're feeling angry or frustrated, you can still approach the situation with integrity and respect.
Exactly. And that's where habit 5, seek first to understand, is so powerful. Pause, take a breath, and really try to listen to the other person's perspective. Even if you don't agree with them, try to see things from their point of view.
Yeah, that's definitely easier said than done when you're in it.
It is. It takes practice. But remember, the goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to find a solution
Right.
that works for everyone. That's where I think win-win comes in. It's about collaboration, not competition.
So find that common ground even when it feels like you're on opposite sides.
Yeah.
Remembering you're on the same team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And throughout that process, just stay true to your values, you know? Communicate with honesty and respect, even when it's tough.
Okay. I'm starting to see how these habits can really change how we deal with tough situations. But with all this focus on being productive and effective, is there room for self-care? I mean, we are human after all.
That is such an important point, and I think that's exactly where habit 7 comes in, sharpen the saw.
Okay.
It reminds us that we can't pour from an empty cup.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that we're taking care of ourselves
Yeah,
to be able to take care of everything else.
exactly. It's about renewing ourselves in those 4 key dimensions: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Okay, can you give some examples of how we can sharpen the saw in each of those areas?
Sure. Physically, it could be as simple as, getting enough sleep, eating nourishing food, moving your body in ways that you enjoy.
Okay.
Mentally, it might be reading, learning a new skill, or just engaging in stimulating conversation.
Like this one.
Exactly.
What about emotionally?
Emotionally, it's about nurturing your relationships, practicing gratitude, and having healthy ways to cope with stress.
Okay. And spiritually?
Spiritually, it could be about connecting with something bigger than yourself, whether that's through nature or meditation or just reflecting on your values.
So it's kind of taking this holistic view of well-being, recognizing that it's all connected.
Absolutely. And it's not selfish. It's an investment.
Work.
When we take care of ourselves, we have more energy, more focus, and more resilience to give to everything else.
I love that. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I feel like I've learned so much. What final thoughts would you leave our listeners with about starting to use the 7 habits in their own lives?
I would say start small. Don't try to do everything at once.
Okay. Pick one.
Yeah, pick one habit that resonates with you and really focus on making small, consistent changes.
Yeah.
And visualize yourself living in alignment with these principles.
Okay.
And just remember, it's a journey, not a destination. So be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and just keep learning and growing.
That's great advice.
Huh.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people. I don't know about you, but I found this super insightful, and I hope our listeners did too.
Yeah, me too. It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening out there, keep diving deep, keep seeking knowledge, and keep striving to live a life of purpose and meaning. Until next time.